Have you been fighting battles that feel too big to win? Do you feel worn out, exhausted, and like nothing is ever going to change? Today, I want to tell you something powerful. Your struggle ends today. God is about to appear in your life in ways you never imagined. And the moment He does, everything that's been holding you back will be set free. I want you to hear me clearly today. God sees your struggle. I mean, every part of it, every sleepless night, every tear you've cried in secret, every moment you've wrestled with fear, doubt, or despair. God sees it. He knows the weight you carry. He knows the battles you fight that nobody else even knows exist. There's a verse in Psalm 34:18 that says, "The Lord is close to the brokenhearted and saves those who are crushed in spirit." I want you to hear that in a fresh way today. God is not distant. He is not absent. He is not watching from afar with indifference. He is close. He is intimately aware of your pain. He is right there in the middle of the storm you've been facing. He's standing with you, and He's ready to move on your behalf. Sometimes when you are in the middle of a struggle, it feels like God has forgotten you. Maybe you've prayed and prayed and nothing seems to change. Maybe you've fasted, you've given, you've tried everything you know to do, and yet your situation remains the same. It's easy in those moments to think that God is distant, that He doesn't care, or that He isn't powerful enough to make a difference in your life. But that is exactly the lie the enemy wants you to believe. The truth is, God sees everything. There is nothing hidden from Him. The psalmist says in Psalm 139 that God knows when you sit down and when you rise up. He perceives your thoughts from afar. Every step you take, every tear you shed, every fear that grips your heart, God sees it. He notices it, and most importantly, He has a plan for it. I know some of you feel like your struggle is too big, too overwhelming, too impossible for anyone to understand, maybe even too much for God Himself to fix. But that's not true. God is bigger than your problem. He is bigger than your past. He is bigger than your fear, bigger than your debt, bigger than your sickness, bigger than your disappointment, bigger than your heartbreak. There is nothing in your life that is too hard for Him. When the Bible says that God sees your struggle, it's not just a comforting thought, it's a promise of His power and presence. He's not only watching you from the sidelines, He is actively working on your behalf, even when you cannot see it. Think about the story of Hagar in the book of Genesis. Hagar was alone, rejected, running for her life, and God saw her. An angel of the Lord spoke to her in the wilderness and said, "I have seen your misery." God saw her pain, her fear, her struggle, and because He saw her, He intervened. He gave her hope, He gave her a future, and He reminded her that she was not invisible to Him. That same God who saw Hagar's struggle sees yours. He knows every detail of your life. He knows your heart, He knows your wounds, He knows your fears, He knows your pain, and He is not indifferent. He is not passive. He's a God who cares so deeply about your life that He is already moving to bring justice, healing, and restoration. Your struggle is not a mistake. Your struggle is not random. Your struggle is not a sign that God has abandoned you. In fact, your struggle is the very moment God is preparing to reveal Himself to you. It is in the midst of the struggle that God's power is made perfect. The Bible says in 2 Corinthians 12 that Paul prayed for his thorn in the flesh to be removed. But God said to him, "My grace is sufficient for you, for my power is made perfect in weakness." Sometimes the struggle is not meant to destroy you. Sometimes the struggle is the very place God chooses to show His glory, His power, and His faithfulness. The struggle is the setup for the breakthrough. It is the crucible where your faith is refined, where your perseverance is strengthened, and where your character is built. I want to tell you something crucial today. God is not surprised by your struggle. He is not frustrated with you. He is not waiting for you to figure it out on your own. He already knows. He already sees, He already understands, and He is already at work. Sometimes His work is quiet, unseen, behind the scenes. Sometimes it is immediate and miraculous. But always He is present, always He is watching, always He is moving. When you feel alone, when you feel like no one understands, when you feel like the weight of the world is crushing you, I want you to remember this truth. God sees your struggle, God knows your pain. God has not forgotten you. God has not abandoned you. Even when your friends have turned away, even when the world seems indifferent, even when your own strength has failed you, God sees, and when He sees, He acts. There is a divine timing to every struggle. There is a divine purpose to every trial. There is a divine plan to every challenge you face. It may not look the way you expect. It may not happen on your timetable. It may not come in the way you imagine, but it is coming. God is preparing to show up in your life in ways that will leave you in awe. Your struggle is not unnoticed. Your pain is not meaningless. Your tears are not wasted. God sees every one of them, and he is crafting a story of redemption, a story of breakthrough, a story of victory that is uniquely yours. I know that some of you have been struggling for a long time, maybe for years. Maybe your heart is weary. Maybe your hope is fading. Maybe your faith is weak. I want you to know that God sees you. He has not given up on you. He has not forgotten the promises he made to you. He has not overlooked the prayers you have prayed. God is watching. God is listening. God is aware, and God is about to intervene in your life. The very thing that has been holding you back, the very thing that has kept you in chains, the very thing that has caused you to feel hopeless, God is about to move against it. He is about to show his power. He is about to reveal his presence. He is about to bring freedom. He is about to turn your mourning into dancing, your trial into triumph, your struggle into a testimony. I want you to take a moment right now and imagine God's eyes on you. Picture him looking at you with love, with compassion, with understanding. He sees you exactly as you are. Not as you wish you could be, not as others judge you, not as the world labels you, but exactly as you are. And he loves you, and he cares for you, and he is working for you. When you feel invisible, when you feel overlooked, when you feel unworthy, I want you to cling to this truth. God sees you. And because he sees you, your life is about to change. Because he sees you, your struggle is not the end of your story. Because he sees you, your breakthrough is on its way. I want you to hear me today, because this is a word for your soul. The season of waiting is almost over. I know you've been patient. I know you've been faithful. I know you've prayed and hoped and believed, even when it seemed like nothing was changing. You've been in a place where it feels like God has been silent, where it feels like the doors are closed, where it feels like the breakthrough you've been longing for is just out of reach. I know it has not been easy. I know it has been discouraging. I know it has tested your faith in ways you never expected. But here is the truth. Your waiting is not wasted. Your season of delay is not meaningless, and your patience is about to be rewarded. Waiting is one of the hardest things to do. It stretches you. It tests you. It can leave you feeling weak, frustrated, and even hopeless at times. But waiting is not the same as standing still. Waiting is not a pause in God's work. Waiting is not a sign that God has forgotten you. Waiting is the season where God is quietly preparing, quietly shaping, and quietly positioning you for the next level of your life. There is a difference between waiting and wandering. There is a difference between feeling stuck and being in the middle of a divine preparation. And I want you to understand today that God's timing is perfect. Even when it doesn't match yours, even when it doesn't match your expectations, even when it doesn't match your calendar. The Bible is full of examples of people who had to wait for God's promises. Abraham waited decades for the child God had promised him. Joseph waited in a prison for years before God elevated him to a place of power in Egypt. Moses waited 40 years in the wilderness before leading the Israelites to freedom. David waited for years, enduring rejection, betrayal, and hardship before he became king. And the thing that all of them had in common was this: God's timing was perfect. The moment God moved was the moment everything changed. The waiting was not wasted. The waiting was not random. The waiting was necessary to bring about a greater purpose, a greater plan, a greater destiny. I know some of you feel like your waiting will never end. You feel like the clock has stopped. You feel like your prayers are going unanswered. You feel like the struggle is unending. But let me tell you something important. God's delays are not denials. His pauses are not rejections. His silence is not absence. God is at work behind the scenes, even when you cannot see it. He is moving pieces into place. He is orchestrating circumstances. He is aligning people and situations to bring your breakthrough. And when he does, it will be so much greater than you could ever imagine. It will exceed your expectations. It will surpass your dreams. It will be worth the wait. Sometimes we get impatient because we focus on what we see and what we feel. We see the struggle, we see the pain, we see the delay, and we forget to look at what God is doing invisibly. But God is never idle. He is always working, always moving, always preparing the way for your miracle. Even when it feels like nothing is happening, your breakthrough is closer than you think. Sometimes God's preparation takes time because He wants to make sure that when the door opens, it opens fully, and you are ready to walk through it with the strength, wisdom, and faith you need to handle it. He is not rushing, He is perfecting. He is not neglecting, He is equipping. I want you to think about a seed for a moment. When you plant a seed in the ground, it does not immediately become a tree. It takes time, it takes darkness, it takes patience, it takes water, it takes soil, it takes sun. And then, one day, a small sprout appears, and eventually, it grows into a strong, flourishing tree. Your life is like that seed. The season of waiting is like the soil. It is like the watering. It is like the sun. And even when it feels like nothing is happening, God is nurturing your breakthrough. He is strengthening your faith. He is building your character. He is preparing you for the fullness of what He has promised. The moment your breakthrough comes, it will be undeniable, and you will know without a doubt that God was with you all along. There is a divine purpose to every season of waiting. It is in the waiting that your faith is tested and strengthened. It is in the waiting that your patience is refined. It is in the waiting that your perseverance is built. And it is in the waiting that God's timing is revealed as perfect, intentional, and unstoppable. The Bible says in Isaiah 64:4, since ancient times no one has heard, no ear has perceived, no eye has seen any God besides you who acts on behalf of those who wait for Him. God acts on behalf of those who wait for Him. The waiting is not in vain. The waiting is not meaningless. The waiting is the very moment God is preparing to move. I know some of you are tempted to give up. I know some of you are tempted to take matters into your own hands. I know some of you are tempted to settle for less than God promised because the waiting is hard. But I want you to hear me clearly. Don't quit. Don't compromise. Don't settle. Your breakthrough is coming. The season of waiting is almost over. God is about to move. He is about to show up. He is about to intervene. And when He does, it will be so powerful, so miraculous, so undeniable that you will know without a doubt that God was with you the whole time. Even when the waiting feels long, even when the struggle feels endless, even when your heart is weary, I want you to hold on to this truth. God is never late. He is never early. He is always on time. And His timing is perfect. He knows exactly when to act, exactly how to act, and exactly what is needed to bring about your victory. You don't have to rush God. You don't have to force the process. You don't have to worry about the delay. God is faithful, and He is working for you even when you cannot see it. I want to challenge you today to shift your perspective. Instead of focusing on how long you've been waiting, focus on how close you are to the breakthrough. Instead of focusing on the delay, focus on God's promise. Instead of focusing on your struggle, focus on God's power. Your season of waiting is not an ending. It is the prelude to a beginning. It is the setup for your breakthrough. It is the moment before your miracle. And the very fact that you are still here, still standing, still believing is proof that God is not done. Your breakthrough is not just coming, it is imminent and it is unstoppable. So I want you to take a deep breath right now and declare with me in your heart, the season of waiting is almost over. I may not see it yet. I may not feel it yet. I may not understand it yet, but I trust God. I believe in His timing. I know He is faithful. I know He is powerful. I know He is working behind the scenes, and I know that the moment my breakthrough comes, everything will change. The waiting is not wasted. The struggle is not meaningless. The delay is not a denial. God is about to move. He is about to show up. He is about to make a way where there seems to be no way. I want you to hear this today and let it sink deep into your heart. God's power is about to intervene in your life. I mean it. The very situation that has been overwhelming you, the very circumstance that has held you back, the very struggle that has seemed impossible to overcome, God's power is on the move. And when God moves, nothing can stop it. Nothing can delay it. Nothing can resist it. His power is unstoppable, unshakable, and fully capable of bringing transformation in every area of your life. I know some of you have been waiting, hoping, praying, believing, and sometimes it feels like nothing is happening. But let me tell you something profound. God is never late. He is never passive, and he is never unaware of your situation. He sees your pain. He knows your struggle, and he is preparing to step in with a power that will leave you in awe. You see, God's power is not like human power. Human power is limited, it is conditional, and it is often unreliable. Human power can be exhausted, it can be resisted, it can fail, but God's power is limitless. It is unstoppable, it is unchangeable, it is eternal. When God intervenes, circumstances bend, walls crumble, chains break, and lives are transformed. Nothing is too hard for him. There is no situation too big, no problem too complicated, no obstacle too strong that his power cannot overcome it. I want you to hear this clearly today. The very thing that has felt impossible is about to be made possible because God's power is on the move in your life. I want you to think about the story of Peter in the Bible for a moment. Peter had just walked on water for a moment, but then fear took over and he began to sink. He cried out, "Lord, save me." And immediately Jesus reached out his hand and caught him. The power of God intervened at the exact moment Peter needed it. And I want you to understand that God's power works the same way for you. He doesn't come late, he doesn't arrive too early, and he doesn't fail to respond. His timing is perfect and his power is unstoppable. That moment you have been praying for, hoping for, and believing for is closer than you think. The hand of God is about to reach down and change everything. I know some of you are tempted to rely on your own strength. You've tried everything you know to do. You've worked tirelessly, struggled endlessly, and maybe even exhausted your own resources. And I want you to hear me clearly today. Your strength is not enough, but God's power is. Your efforts alone cannot overcome the situation, but God's power can. You don't have to figure it all out. You don't have to have all the answers. You don't have to do it all by yourself. God's power is available, and when it moves with authority, with purpose, and with unstoppable force. Think about the Red Sea for a moment. The Israelites were trapped. Pharaoh's army was behind them. The sea was in front of them. There was no human solution. They could not overcome the situation on their own. But God's power intervened. He parted the waters. He made a way where there was no way, and the impossible became possible. That same God, the same power, the same authority is at work in your life today. The very obstacle that has seemed insurmountable, the very challenge that has felt impossible, the very struggle that has weighed you down, God's power is about to make a way. I want to remind you that God's power is not only about changing circumstances, it's about changing lives. It's about bringing healing where there has been pain. It's about bringing freedom where there has been bondage. It's about bringing hope where there has been despair. It's about bringing restoration where there has been loss. When God intervenes, it is never partial. It is always complete. He doesn't just touch the surface. He goes deep. He doesn't just make small changes. He transforms the entire situation. His power is total, comprehensive, and life-changing. I know some of you are waiting for a breakthrough in your health. Maybe you've been battling illness for months, even years. I want you to hear me clearly today. God's power can touch your body and bring healing that medicine cannot. I know some of you are waiting for a breakthrough in your finances. Maybe your debts feel impossible to overcome. Maybe your resources are stretched thin, and maybe you feel like there's no way out. God's power is able to provide, multiply, and restore. I know some of you are waiting for a breakthrough in your relationships, marriages, friendships, family dynamics that feel broken. God's power can restore, reconcile, and bring peace where there has been division. There is no area of your life that is too small or too big for God's power to intervene. I also want you to understand that God's power is released through faith. It is activated when you believe, when you trust, when you take the step, even when you don't see the full picture. The Bible says in Mark 11:22-24, have faith in God. Whatever you ask for in prayer, believe that you have received it and it will be yours. Faith doesn't create the power, but it positions you to receive it. God's power is already present, but it is often faith that unlocks its manifestation in your life. That is why, even in the waiting, even in the struggle, even when it feels like nothing is happening, you must continue to believe, continue to trust, continue to act in faith. because God's power is poised to intervene the moment your faith aligns with his promise. Think about Elijah on Mount Carmel. He prayed for God to show his power, and when he did, fire fell from heaven. The impossible became reality. That same God who answered Elijah's prayer is alive today. That same God who moved in ways that could not be explained, who intervened with authority, who demonstrated supernatural power, that same God is moving on your behalf today. And I want you to know that your situation is not an exception. God's power is not limited to Bible stories. His power is limitless and eternal. It is available for you right now in this very moment in ways that will astonish you. I want to remind you that God's power does not always come quietly. Sometimes it comes with a sudden shift. Sometimes it comes with a dramatic, unmistakable change. Sometimes it comes in a way that makes you stop and say, only God could have done this. That is what you are about to experience. You may not have seen it yet, you may not feel it yet, but God is preparing to intervene in a way that will change your story forever. Your breakthrough is not only possible, it is imminent. God's power is on the move and nothing can stand against it. Even in the midst of fear, doubt, and uncertainty, I want you to hold on to this truth. God's power is greater than your problem. It is greater than your pain. It is greater than your struggle. It is greater than anything the enemy has tried to do to stop you. Nothing can resist God's power when it is released on your behalf. And I want you to prepare your heart today to receive it, to step into it, and to walk in it. Your miracle is closer than you think. Your breakthrough is nearer than you imagine, and your life is about to be transformed because God's power is about to intervene in a way that will leave you in awe. I want to speak to your heart today and declare a truth that can change everything in your life. Faith activates God's presence. I want you to hear that clearly. It is not merely hope. It is not wishful thinking. It is not simply wanting things to get better. Faith is the key that opens the door to God's presence and releases his power into your life. You may have been waiting for God to move. You may have been longing for your breakthrough. You may have been praying and believing, but I want you to understand that God has chosen to work through your faith. When you step forward in faith, you invite God's presence to manifest in ways that go beyond human understanding. Faith is not passive. Faith is not simply saying, I hope things work out. Faith is active, alive, and responsive. It is a posture of the heart and a declaration of trust. Faith says, even when I don't see it, I believe it. Even when I don't feel it, I trust it. Even when the circumstances seem impossible, I know God is able. That is the kind of faith that activates God's presence. The Bible says in Hebrews 11:6 that without faith it is impossible to please God, and I want you to understand what that means. God has given us a partnership in our breakthrough. He has given us a role in releasing his power, and that role is faith. Faith is the channel through which heaven flows into your life. Faith is the bridge between the promise and the manifestation. Faith is the key that opens the door for miracles. I know some of you are struggling because you've tried to rely on your own understanding, your own strength, your own ability to solve problems. Maybe you've prayed, but your faith has wavered. Maybe you've hoped, but your belief has been tested. Maybe you've trusted, but fear has crept in. And I want you to hear me today. Your faith does not have to be perfect. It does not have to be flawless. It does not have to be without doubts. Even a small measure of faith can activate God's presence. Jesus said in Matthew 17:20, if you have faith as small as a mustard seed, nothing will be impossible for you. God does not wait for you to have perfect faith. He waits for you to take the step, to reach out, to trust him, to believe him, and to move forward despite what you see or feel. Faith activates God's presence because it positions you to receive what he has already promised. God has already given you promises in his word. God has already spoken blessings over your life. God has already provided the keys to victory, breakthrough, and abundance. But faith is what allows those promises to flow into your reality. Faith is what unlocks the supernatural. Faith is what releases healing, provision, restoration, and favor. I want you to understand that God's power is available to you now, but it is your faith that sets it in motion. When you believe, when you trust, when you take the next step, you are partnering with God to see his presence and his power manifest in your life. Let me give you an example from the Bible. There was a woman who had been suffering for 12 years with a bleeding condition. She had spent all her money on doctors and nothing had helped. She was desperate, worn out. and at the end of her rope. But when she heard about Jesus, she believed that if she could just touch the hem of his garment, she would be healed. That small act of faith activated God's presence. The moment she reached out in faith, Jesus said, "Your faith has healed you." Faith activated the supernatural. Faith made the invisible visible. Faith turned desperation into healing. And I want you to understand today that the same principle applies to you, your faith. Even if it feels small, even if it feels weak, even if it feels imperfect, can activate the presence of God and change your life. Faith also positions you to see God move in ways that exceed human understanding. Often the breakthrough we're waiting for does not come in the way we expect. It may not look like what we imagined. It may not arrive on our timetable, but when faith is present, we can recognize God's work even when it is unexpected. Faith keeps our eyes on God and not on the circumstances. Faith allows us to see the invisible and believe the impossible. Faith allows us to hear the voice of God above the noise of our struggles, above the distractions of life, and above the doubts that try to creep in. Faith positions us to recognize God's movement and step into the blessings He has prepared for us. I know some of you are waiting for breakthroughs in finances, relationships, health, or purpose. I want to tell you today that faith can activate God's presence in every one of those areas. Faith can bring provision where there is lack. Faith can bring reconciliation where there is division. Faith can bring healing where there is sickness. Faith can bring clarity and direction where there is confusion. When you take steps of faith, no matter how small, you are releasing God's presence into your situation. You are saying, God, I trust you, I believe you, I am stepping out in obedience and expectation. And the Bible promises that where faith is present, God will meet you with power, authority, and transformation. Faith is also a weapon against fear, doubt, and discouragement. Fear wants to paralyze you. Doubt wants to convince you that God is not able. Discouragement wants to make you give up. But faith says, I will not be moved by what I see. I will not be shaken by what I feel. I will trust the one who is bigger than my problems, greater than my struggles, and stronger than my circumstances. Faith creates a space for God to act. Faith prepares your heart, mind, and spirit to receive His power. Faith releases the supernatural into the natural. And when God's presence shows up, everything changes. Situations shift, obstacles crumble, doors open, and miracles happen. I want you to understand that faith is also demonstrated in action. Faith is not just a feeling. Faith is not just an idea. Faith is not just words. Faith is movement. Faith is obedience. Faith is taking steps even when the path is unclear. Faith is speaking declarations of belief, even when it contradicts what you see. Faith is holding on to God's promises, even when the circumstances seem impossible. James 2:17 says, faith by itself, if it is not accompanied by action, is dead. God's power is released when faith moves, when it acts, when it reaches out, and when it steps forward. I want to encourage you today to take a step of faith right now in whatever area of your life has felt stagnant, hopeless, or impossible. It could be a step of prayer, a step of obedience, a step of trusting God with your finances, your relationships, your health, or your future. The step may be small, but it has the power to activate God's presence. The step may be simple, but it has the power to release supernatural intervention. The step may feel risky, but it is the very action that positions you to see God move. Faith activates God's presence, and when His presence comes, everything changes. I want you to picture this in your mind. Your breakthrough, your miracle, your answered prayer, your restoration, your victory. Now realize that faith is the key that unlocks that reality. Faith is what turns God's promises from something you hope for into something you experience. Faith is what brings heaven to earth in your life. Faith is what transforms struggle into triumph, fear into courage, despair into hope, and waiting into fulfillment. When you choose to believe, when you choose to trust, when you choose to act, you are partnering with God in a way that releases His presence, His power, and His glory into your life. I want you to hear this today and let it resonate deep in your soul. Victory is not only possible, it's coming. I know some of you have been fighting battles that feel impossible. I know some of you have faced circumstances that seemed insurmountable. I know some of you have walked through storms that have threatened to overwhelm you, challenges that have tested your faith, and struggles that have left you weary and exhausted. But I want you to understand something crucial today. No matter how long you have been waiting, no matter how difficult the situation, no matter how deep the struggle, God is moving, and victory is on its way. Victory is not a distant dream. Victory is not a vague hope. Victory is not a wishful thought. Victory is a promise from God, and it is coming to you in full measure. I know some of you are tempted to believe that victory is only for other people, for people who are stronger, wiser, luckier, or more deserving. But that is a lie of the enemy. God's word makes it clear that his victory is available to you. It does not depend on your past, your failures, or your weaknesses. It does not depend on your circumstances, your enemies, or your setbacks. Victory comes from God alone, and he has promised to make you more than a conqueror through Christ who strengthens you. That means that even when things seem impossible, even when the odds are against you, even when your faith is tested, victory is coming. It is not a maybe, it is not a someday, it is a certainty for those who trust in him. Think about the story of David and Goliath for a moment. David was a young shepherd boy facing a giant that the entire army of Israel feared. The situation seemed impossible. Everyone around him saw defeat as certain, but David did not rely on what he saw. He relied on God's power. He relied on God's promises. He trusted that victory was not only possible, it was coming. And when he stepped onto the battlefield with faith, courage, and God on his side, the giant fell. That same God, the same power, the same authority is at work in your life today. Your giants will fall, your obstacles will crumble, your breakthroughs will arrive. Victory is not only possible, it is imminent. Victory is not always immediate, but it is inevitable when God is on your side. Sometimes we become discouraged because we want instant results. We want the struggle to end right now. We want the breakthrough to happen immediately. But I want you to understand that God's timing is perfect. The delay is not denial. The wait is not wasted. Sometimes God allows the struggle to continue just long enough to strengthen your faith, refine your character, and prepare you to walk in the fullness of your victory. Every challenge you face, every obstacle you encounter, every difficulty you endure is not the end of your story. It is the preparation for your triumph. I know some of you are tired. I know some of you are weary. I know some of you feel like you cannot go on any longer, but I want you to hear me clearly today. You are closer to victory than you think. The moment you have been praying for, hoping for, believing for, and waiting for is just ahead. God has not forgotten you. He has not abandoned you. He has not overlooked your efforts. Victory is coming because God is faithful. Victory is coming because his promises are true. Victory is coming because he is working behind the scenes, orchestrating every detail and positioning everything in your favor. I want you to understand that victory is not just about overcoming your current problem. Victory is about transformation. Victory is about being made stronger, wiser, and more resilient through the process. Victory is about walking into a new level of purpose, influence, and blessing that you could never have reached without the struggle. When God brings victory into your life, he does not just remove the obstacle. He elevates you above it. He gives you the wisdom to avoid it in the future. He gives you the strength to walk through it and the testimony to inspire others. Victory is not only about the end of the battle, it is about the beginning of your new season, a season of abundance, a season of favor, and a season of supernatural blessing. The Bible reminds us in Romans 8:37 that we are more than conquerors through him who loved us. That means your struggle, your pain, your difficulty does not define you. Your failure does not determine your future. Your challenges do not dictate the outcome. God's victory is already promised to you. It is not dependent on your strength, your skill, or your ability. It is dependent on him, and he has already declared that you will overcome, you will triumph, and you will see the fulfillment of his promises in your life. I want you to picture your life after the breakthrough. Picture the chains being broken. Picture the doors opening that were once closed. Picture the burdens being lifted. Picture the impossible becoming possible. Picture the tears being turned into joy, the sorrow being replaced with gladness, the pain being transformed into purpose. That is what victory looks like, and that is what God has prepared for you. He has not forgotten your struggle. He has not ignored your prayers. He has not overlooked your faith. Victory is coming because He is faithful, because He is powerful, and because He is in control. Sometimes we struggle because we compare our journey to others. We look at people who seem to have it all together, people who appear to have no struggles, people who seem to receive victory easily, and we feel discouraged. But God's victory is personal. Your breakthrough is unique to you. Your triumph is designed for your life, your timing, and your purpose. Don't measure your journey by anyone else's path. Don't allow comparison to steal your joy or delay your faith. Trust God, believe His promises, walk in His ways, and watch as victory manifests in your life in ways that are perfectly designed for you. Victory also requires perseverance. It requires endurance. It requires staying faithful even when the battle seems long, even when the opposition seems strong, even when the circumstances seem impossible. Remember, it is often the last step, the final push, the moment when you are ready to give up, that God chooses to intervene in the most powerful way. Do not quit. Do not surrender. Do not stop believing. Your breakthrough is on the horizon. Your miracle is near. Your victory is not only possible, it is coming and it is unstoppable. I want to remind you that God's victory is not limited to your circumstances. Victory is bigger than your problem. Victory is stronger than your enemy. Victory is greater than your fear. Victory is deeper than your doubt. Victory is eternal, unshakable, and unstoppable. When God brings victory, it transforms everything. Your mindset, your heart, your relationships, your purpose, and your destiny. It is comprehensive. It is complete, and it is life-changing. I want you to hold on to this truth today. The very moment God moves on your behalf, everything that has been holding you back will be released. Every obstacle will crumble. Every chain will break. Every opposition will fall. Every delay will end, and you will walk into the fullness of God's promise with confidence, joy, and authority. Victory is not just a hope. Victory is not just a dream. Victory is not just a possibility. Victory is a reality that God is bringing into your life, and it is coming faster than you think. I know some of you are praying for a breakthrough in your finances. God's victory can provide provision and abundance. I know some of you are praying for a breakthrough in your health. God's victory can bring restoration and healing. I know some of you are praying for a breakthrough in your relationships. God's victory can bring reconciliation, restoration, and peace. I know some of you are praying for a breakthrough in your career, your purpose, or your destiny. God's victory can open doors that no one can shut, release favor that no one can resist, and align your life with His plan. Victory is coming in every area of your life because God is faithful, He is powerful, and He is in control. Today, I want you to walk away with a renewed understanding of who God is and what He is doing in your life. You have heard that God sees your struggle. Every tear, every moment of despair, every battle that has weighed you down, He has not forgotten you, He has not overlooked you, and He is fully aware of what you're going through. Your struggle has never been invisible, and it never will be, because the God who watches over you is intimately involved in every detail of your life. Even when you feel alone, even when it seems like no one understands, God's eyes are on you, and He is preparing to move in your favor in ways you could never imagine. You have been reminded that the season of waiting is almost over. I know it has not been easy. I know patience has been hard. I know hope has felt distant, but waiting is not a pause in God's work. It is a preparation. The moments that have tested your faith, stretched your patience, and refined your character have been setting the stage for your breakthrough. God is orchestrating every detail behind the scenes, aligning circumstances, positioning people, and preparing the perfect moment for His intervention. The delay is not denial, and your perseverance in the waiting is about to pay off. You have been encouraged to expect God's power to intervene. The very circumstances that have seemed impossible, the problems that have felt insurmountable, and the battles that have exhausted you are about to be met with God's unstoppable power. Nothing is too difficult for Him. Nothing is too big. Nothing is too complicated, and nothing is too far gone. The same God who parted the Red Sea, who healed the sick, who raised the dead, and who conquered every enemy is moving on your behalf. Your breakthrough is not just possible. It is imminent, and it will demonstrate the power of God in ways that will leave you in awe. You have also learned that faith activates God's presence. It is faith that positions you to receive His promises, faith that unlocks the supernatural, and faith that releases His power into your life. Even when you feel small, weak, or uncertain, your faith however imperfect, is enough to invite God's intervention. The very step you take in faith, the very prayer you lift, the very trust you place in Him is what allows heaven to touch your circumstances and transform your reality. Faith is the channel through which God's presence flows. Your obedience, trust, and belief will open the door for miracles, healing, and restoration. And finally, you have been reminded that victory is not only possible, it is coming. Every struggle you have faced, every obstacle that has threatened to stop you, every challenge that has felt impossible is temporary. God's promises are true, His power is unstoppable, and His faithfulness is unwavering. Your breakthrough is near. Your chains are about to break. Your doors are about to open. Your life is about to shift into the fullness of God's blessing. The victory He has promised is not a dream. It is your reality, and it is arriving now. So today, I want you to step forward with confidence, hope, and expectation. I want you to lift your eyes above your struggles and see the God who sees you, who has not abandoned you, and who is preparing to move on your behalf. Your waiting is over, your breakthrough is coming, and your victory is inevitable. God is about to appear in your life in ways that will surpass your imagination. He is about to bring freedom, healing, provision, and restoration. He is about to release the fullness of His power and presence into your story. Your struggle ends today because God is moving, God is faithful, and God is on your side.